So thanks to all the team who have actually organized all these things for the educating the people who are devoted their time and life for the COVID patients. So we all know we are facing the COVID patient from last 1 year, and we deal most of the patients in the ICUs or SDU. So whenever we face these patients or manage these patients in SDU and ICU, so very first thing we realize that these patients are having a type 1 respiratory failure. That means the oxygenation is decreased. Later in due courses, the patients also develop the type 2 respiratory failure and mixed type of respiratory failure. So in initial period of time, we have already learned from the last 2 to 3 lectures, what are the different devices we can use to boost the oxygenation in our patients. So, but what are the measure on which we can decide what uh, device we should use in our patients. So I'm trying to give you a very short lecture on arterial blood gas analysis. Uh, the why we need a arterial blood gas analysis. So just leave this part. We are not going to do the ABG for establishing diagnosis in this particular scenario where we have COVID patients. Yes, but more or less many of the comorbid patients have already come, and definitely we would like to make some diagnosis in some of the patients, but most of the patients we are having are the respiratory failure patients. So the second part is most important. The ABG guide actually the oxygenation and ventilation management, and we can decide or draw our conclusion about the change of device or weaning from these devices. Yes, definitely the acid-base management is also important. I will go one by one. And other variable, once we have ABG with us, so there is another variable also given there, the lactate, the electrolyte, sodium, potassium, and calcium, anion gap, and hemoglobin. All these are important as far as critically ill patients who are lying in our COVID ICU or SDU, and these values are also needed to correct it, as we all know that electrolyte disbalances causes not only the muscles weaknesses, uh, the unconsciousness, as well as arrhythmias in these patients. Lactate, yes, definitely this, the patient also developed the sepsis in our COVID patients. This is important. Anion gap, to differentiate between the what type of the metabolic acidosis is and the hemoglobin as a daily uh, monitoring for the hemoglobin. So this is the kind of ABG we are having in our institute. So it has so many values: the pH, PCO2, PO2, bicarbonate, the actual standard bicarbonate base axis. Then here we can see the sodium, potassium, calcium, chloride, and ion gap and lactate. So these are the common things which has been given in any ABG anywhere. So these are the standard one. Uh, the only difference is that the values can be given in not in this series, or it may upside down. Sometimes PO2 is given earlier than the PCO2 and like this. So what is the most important before uh, seeing and seeing any ABG? The first thing is, well, first we have to know about the patients and patient's clinical condition at this point. So sole ABG interpretation has a no value. Many times I will show you many ABGs where the patients have a clinical condition is totally different and the ABGs has been showing something different. And then we just, when we uh, try to contact our resident, what happened to the patients, and what is exactly the interpretation. So then the whole scenario has been changed. Otherwise, we may go very aggressively and do some invasive process. So I will show one of that example. So first of all, relevant clinical history. What is the patient's at that moment of time? What is the respiratory rate? And what is the saturation of the patients? This is very important, and the consciousness of the patients. These are the very relevant things we have to ask or we have to observe in our patients before doing any interpretation in ABCs. So these are the three main cluster. That means if you make it, you divide the ABG in these three groups, then you are able to make a diagnosis much easier. One is pH, PCO2 bicarbonate. So it will point out about what is the acid base status of the patients. PO2 and PCO2 is second cluster, which will tell you about what is the type of respiratory flow. And of course, the electrolyte sodium, potassium, and chloride, and definitely the calcium also, chloride and calcium also. It is a third cluster, which is normally we try to interpret patients the abnormal conditions in their blood. So first of all, whenever we get the ABG, we just try to uh, see one thing. Look into the pH of the patients. What is the pH? So pH normal values are 7.35 to 7.45. So if the pH is less than that or pH is more than that. If the pH is less than that, that if the pH is less than that, that means if pH is less than 7.35, we call this condition as acidemia, not acidosis at this moment. This is acidemia. Like if this shows that there is a more acid in the blood. So just for example, that if there is a bacteria in the blood, we call it as a bacteremia, not a bacteriosis. So this is just like that. We called as a acidosis, acidemia. So this is acidemia. So whenever the pH is less than 7.35, this is acidemia. And if it is more than 7.45, this is called alkalemia. So this is a first step. We have to look into the pH and decide whether this is a normal, this is acidemia, or this is alkalemia. The second step. So then after seeing this, we have to see the PCO2, that is a partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood. So why we see the carbon dioxide, not the bicarbonate? Because we all know that carbon dioxide compensation or carbon dioxide changes are much faster than bicarbonate, because this is a rapid mechanism of uh, uh, maintaining the milieu than the bicarbonate or bicarbonate part. So we see the pH, and then we'll go to see the PCO2. If the PCO2's normal range of PCO2 is 35 to 45. If PCO2 is less than, if it is more than 45, then this drop in pH, that is the acidemia, is caused by the respiratory part. So because of the increase in PCO2, so that we called as a respiratory acidosis. And if the pH is uh, uh, alkalotic or alkalemia, and PCO2 is less than the normal values, if it is less than 35 millimeter mercury, then this increase in pH or this alkalemia is because of drop in PCO2. So we call it as a respiratory alkalosis. So that means if the mechanism of acidemia or alkalemia is the respiratory mechanism, then these are the respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis. And if you see, these are reverse to each other. That means if pH drop and PCO2 increases, this is a respiratory acidosis. If pH increases and PCO2 drop, this is a respiratory alkalosis. So we can remember is at a, whenever there is a seesaw relationship between the pH and PCO2, this is always because of the respiratory part. So whenever there is a inverse the changes between the pH and PCO2, this is a respiratory acidosis or respiratory alkalosis. Then third part we have to observe is what is a bicarbonate. So in this example, we can see this pH is 7.315, that is acidemia, and PCO2 is high, that is 53. So it is more, PCO2 is more than normal. We called as a respiratory acidosis. And this is reversed, that is pH is dropping and PCO2 is rising. So seesaw appearance. So this is respiratory acidosis. These are all, just to disclose you, all these APGs are taken from the COVID ICUs, and we are just for your review, we are pasted these APGs for the references. In the other example, the pH is increased, that is more than that. So this is alkalemia. And if you see the PCO2 has dropped. Now we have not gone into the bicarbonate at this point. So we can definitely say this increase in pH, that is alkalemia, which is created in the blood, is because of drop in PCO2. Hello, I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, Devan. Yes, Devan.
Okay. So this is respiratory alkalosis. So this has already reverse relationship between pH and PCO2. So this is always the respiratory acidosis or respiratory alkalosis. So next come the bicarbonate. So once we see the pH is alkalemia or acidemia, and if second thing, if we see the PCO2 is a normal or it is not conclusive of because of respiratory part, we see the bicarbonate. If this normal bicarbonate level is 22 to 26, we remember is as a 24. So if the bicarbonate, if the pH is decreased and bicarbonate is also decrease. So that means as this acidemia is because of decrease in bicarbonate. Because here the PCO2 we have seen that it is normal or it is not giving the same direction as the pH. So the pH is, as this acidemia is because of decrease in the bicarbonate. So this is metabolic acidosis. And if increase in pH, that is alkalemia, is because of increase in bicarbonate. If you see the bicarbonate is increased, pH is increased as well as bicarbonate is increased. This we call as a metabolic alkalosis. So we can see that this is swing where pH and PCO2 are pH and bicarbonate. Sorry, this is hello. Okay, so this pH and bicarbonate are in the same direction. So this is the metabolic acidosis or metabolic alkalosis. So we can see this is both are going down. The pH is less, that is acidemia, but PCO2 is not conclusive because this is not explaining the acidemia. So now we can see the bicarbonate. Bicarbonate is 16. That means the bicarbonate is decreased. So that means we can definitely call it as a metabolic acidosis. The third step. So third step, we want to see whether this metabolic or respiratory alkalosis or respiratory acidosis or alkalosis or respiratory acidosis or alkalosis is compensated, because there is always compensation by other metals. Suppose patient is having a respiratory acidosis or alkalosis. So body try to compensate. How the body try to compensate? Body will try to compensate it by increasing bicarbonate or decreasing bicarbonate in the respiratory acidosis or alkalosis. On the other hand, if there is a metabolic acidosis or alkalosis, body try to compensate by decreasing PCO2 or increasing PCO2, right? So we have to see whether there is a compensation or not. So in this first case, the pH is 7.315. That means there is acidemia, and PCO2 is high. That means this is because of respiratory acidemia. So this condition is called as respiratory acidosis. Now we have to check the bicarbonate. So bicarbonate is increased more than normal. That means bicarbonate is trying to the nullify or neutralizes the effect which is created by the PCO2. So this is a compensation is going on. So we called as a respiratory acidosis and compensated by metabolic alkalosis. In second example, we can see this pH is increased. So that means we called as a alkalemia. PCO2 is decreased. That means this is caused by the respiratory part. So we called as a respiratory alkalosis, and we try to see the bicarbonate. So bicarbonate is decreased. That means it is trying to compensate. So this condition is called as a respiratory alkalosis and compensated by metabolic alkalosis compensated by metabolic acidosis. So a very rule is that if the bicarbonate and PCO2 changes are in opposite to each other, that means this is the mixed disorder. Normally, so if the in this particular case the pH is 7.21, that is acidemia, and the PCO2 site, that means this acidemia is caused by the PCO2. So this condition is called as respiratory acidosis. So, but on the other hand, if we see the PCO, the bicarbonate is also decreased. So it is not trying to compensate. If it is trying to compensate, then bicarbonate level should be higher more than the normal. So here we can see that we can easily say that the compensation is not going on. Also, this is the mixed disorder. So here in this case, how to assess. So now the main part, how to interpret whether what to do when the patient has come into our ICU or SG. But the patient, normal PO2 on the room air is normal individual like me and you. Normally, if you do the ABG, our blood gas analysis, and we will find out that PO2 may be between 70 to 80, in some patients it may be more than 80. So we can very well say that there's the PF ratio, PO2 versus what is FiO2. So if PF ratio is more than 350 or 400. So this is a normal thing. Okay, so this is our normal. And PCO2 we will see in most of us is the less than 45. So this means that this is a normal person with a normal.
3-4 minutes more, sir.
Okay, no problem. So if the patients who come into our ICU and we found that the PO2 is less than 80, and if the most simplest devices, which is it is that the SpO2, that is pulse oximetry, if it is less than 94, and then we have to do the ABG in that particular case, and we have to find out what is the pH and PCO2. If it is near normal, so then we can very well say is that this is a type 1 respiratory failure. That means just like in the COVID cases, in initial period of time, there is no problem in the CO2 diffusion, because the CO2 is more easily diffused than the PO2. So PO2 suffer the first. So in this particular case, the PO2 is the oxygen is not able to diffuse inside the blood. So this is a type 1 respiratory failure. So here, the first thing we have to use is nasal prong, as the previous speakers told us, and we can easily give 2 to 5 liter of per minute, and which give FiO2 of around 0.4 to 40% of the oxygenation. If the patient is able to maintain with this, then it's okay. We can continue. We can also continue in this and ask the patient to do the incentive and all. But if he or she is not able to maintain this, with this, we can switch over to the mask, oxygen mask, which actually give 0.6 or 60% of this. So in this particular case, if we see with the nasal prong, we can see by putting a nasal prong, the pHs become normal and the PCO2 is absolutely normal. So there is no problem in the PCO2. But here the PO2 is increased. So that means it is very satisfactory condition. So we can continue in the nasal pump. If it is not able to maintain it, here if we see the PF ratio, so if we see the PF ratio between 164 divided by 0.4, that is around 400. So it is good. And if the patient's respiratory rate is aligned, we can only give nasal pump. If it is now the patient is oxygenation is decreasing, so then we have to switch over to the mask, and it is giving the 0.6 or 60% of oxygen. So here, if the patient is maintaining, then it's okay. If patient is not maintaining, so if it is not maintaining more than 150, that means if the patient's PO2's PF ratio, that is PO2 divided by FiO2 is less than 150, then we can ask the patient to do the active proning, awake proning, what we called as. And if it is maintaining, it's okay. Otherwise, we could go into the high flow, this is non-rebreathing mask. In non-rebreathing mask, already explained by the previous speaker, there is a bag, and we may give as high as 80 to 90% of oxygen in this case. So now, if this is not achieved, even the non-rebreathing mask, now we have a PO2 is less than 60, and PS is less than 7.5 to 7.3 to 7.35, and PCO2 is more than 45 to 50. So now patient is having a respiratory failure. In the first case, where the PO2 is less than 60, it is type 1 respiratory failure. And later on, when the patient becomes tired, he or she start retaining the CO2. So now there is a type 2 respiratory failure also. At this moment of time, at this particular time, we have to think about invasive and non-invasive ventilation. So how to decide? So here the ventilatory failure is there. So we have to use non-invasive ventilation or invasive ventilation. How to decide it? So first we have to check whether patient is having a respiratory distress. Yes. If the PF ratio is less than 200 or PCO2 is more than 45, that means not only the type 1 but type 2 respiratory failure is also set up. So now patient needs some kind of assistance to their respiratory effort, so that he will not get tired or exhausted, and later on then we have to go for intervention now. Then third question we have to ask, whether respiratory failure is immediate threat to life? No. If a life-threatening, there is a shock to the patients? No. If there is a decrease in consciousness or altered consciousness? No. Inability to protect the airway, like patient become unconscious, or a lower airway reflexes are not there, then, or hematemesis or some kind of this. Then if this all met, then this patient is suitable candidate for non-invasive ventilation, just like BiPAP or high flow nasal cannula. In this later criteria, when the PaO2 is less than 40 or PCO2 is more than 50, and pH is less than 7.25 to 7.3. Now we have to, and patient either having a altered consciousness or patient is having a severe acidosis, lactate is increased, then we have to think about the invasive ventilations. So once the patient has come out, improve, and then come out of the, now it is improving, then we have to see whether these parameters are met. If the patient is improving, then we have to wean from the ventilation. So these are the criteria when how to wean it. The arterial blood gas analysis in ABG, PO2 is more than 60, PCO2 is less than 50, FiO2 is less than 0.5, PF ratio is more than 200, PEEP is less than 5, and there's some other mechanisms we can calculate in the ventilator. These are the tidal volume. We can see the vital capacity. What is the minute ventilation? What is the this is rapid shallow breathing index and all. So on the basis of this, we can wean him off. So there are some few ABGs. We can see that here's the normal values of electrolyte, which is given. And based upon this, if we see the electrolyte here, we can see here. And if we found any electrolyte abnormality in our cases or our patients, we can correct it. So this is a third part of the ABG. So these are the books from where we have taken the references from the about the ABGs. These are the few examples. So this patient is on nasal prong of 5 liters. You can see on the nasal prong, the FiO2 is 40%. That means the PO2 is 52. And that means it is quite satisfactory, more than the PF ratio is more than 150 or so. So we can advise the patient for the active proning. In the second example, the patient has changed from nasal prong to mask, and we can see with the mask that means we are giving at least 50% of oxygen, that is 0.5 FiO2. So this PF ratio is more than 200. So we are very satisfied with this mask device. In this case, we can see the patient is on room air and the PO2 is 29. So that is less than normal. So now we are confused. So in this particular case, when the resident has told me that PO2 is very less, then I asked him to check whether what type of the sample is this. Then the other resident who have drawn the sample, he said that this was not ABG, this is a VBG, that is venous blood sample. So this is just to tell you about, there are some thing we have to always clinically correlate, because the patient was sitting comfortably on room air, saturation was more than 95, 96. So we have to correlate the ABG with the patients. Then the normal face mask. This patient is normal face mask, 10 liter. The PO2 is more than 92, 90, 93. And that means now we have to wean him off. We can decrease some of the FiO2. We can place this patient on the nasal prong and wean him off. So these are the few examples of ABGs, how the ABGs help us in deciding to change the mode, to step up or step down from the oxygen devices in the COVID patients.